ezi onye nwe anyị na Chineke nna nke pụrụ m ihe niile, Chukwu okike abịa ma bụ onye anyị na-efe na-agọzi aha nsọ ya, onye ọbụla naanị ya na-achị, onye mmụọ na mmadụ na-erubere isi, onye ọbụla naanị ya bụ ọka aka. Ụbọchị ene ka anyị na-etụga eze ebube dị ngọzi, mmalite na ọgwụgwụ. Ndị gboo wee tụọ oge ebighị ebi, onye nwe m, ụmụ gị wee gbakọọ n'ụwa niile iwe na ozi ọma nke gị onwe gị n'ezi ha site n'ọnụ mmadụ dị ndụ na nke ebere dị ngọzi. Anyị wee na-asị na onweghị ihe ọbụla nke anyị onwe anyị bụ n'ihi na ọ bụ anụkpa ahụ sọsọ ka mmadụ dị ndụ bụ. Ofu ụbọchị anyị ga-anwụ, maka na okwu nsọ gị na-adịrị ma ruo mgbe ebighị ebi, n'ihi na okwu gị niile ga-abịarịrị na mmezu. Ọ bịa mere Biafra ga-eji wee bịa na mgbe nke anyị. Anyị wee na-akpọkụ gị wee na-arịọ gị na-asị, lekwa ude nke anyị na-asụ n'akwa nke anyị na-ebe ka o metụta gị n'obi. Onye nwe m na Chineke nna nke igwe, biko dịka isi wee napụta ụmụ gị n'ọbụ n'Ijipt gotu wee wezuga ụmụ gị bụ ndị Biafra mgbodo ekwensu bụ zuu nke mmadụ dị ndụ kere. Anyị wee na-aja gị mma, na-asị gị n'ime ọnọdụ anyị anyị ga-ekele ha nsọ gị, wee nye gị nsọpụrụ ụtọ na eji ama mgbe niile, n'ihi na anyị enweghị chi ọzọ ewezuga gị. Anyị nwe anyị anaghị efe arụsị. Ọbịa mere iji wee na-agọzi nsọmụkwụ anyị niile. Ọbịa mere IPOB ji wee gbaa mgbọrọgwụ n'ụwa niile. Anyị anaghị atụ egwu mmadụ dị ndụ. Anyị wee na-eto gị eze ebube dị ngọzi, sị gị biko gbatara anyị ọsọ enyemaka. Ọ bụ naanị gị bụ onye anyị refe nwanyị akpụ isi ala nye ka i wee napụta ndị gị n'ọbụ nke ekwensu. Anyị wee na-enye gị ofe na nsọpụrụ na ija mma, na-asị lekwa ka ndị iro anyị niile ka kasị wee baa ha ọnụ, ha wee daa hapụ ikonye ọzọ. Obodo ekwensu bụ zu ala nwekwa n'ihi eze ebube dị ngọzi. Anyị ọnwa anyị bụ ụmụ gị wee na-akpọkọ ha nsọ gị, na-asị na enweghị chi ọzọ ewezuga gị. Anyị wee na-aja gị mma, wee na-eto gị, na-asị onye kere ihe niile kere eke mana nwere onye kere na n'otuto niile na nsọpụrụ niile na ịja mma niile site n'ebighị ebi mara onye bụ ka a na-arịọ gị. Ise ise ise.
There's a part of this prayer that I don't know whether you people have taken cognizance of it. Maazị Nnamdi Kanu sị na ndị iro anyị niile nekwa ka aka nshi ha siri wee baa ha ọnụ, na ha ga-ada, na ha agaghị ekwulisi ọzọ. All our enemies, their poison, their poisonous hands have entered their own mouth. All the enemies of Biafra, they have mistakenly eaten the poison. They soiled their hands with to poison us. They have put it in their own mouth. And they will never, ever, ever rise again. They have fallen and they will never rise again. Now, very quickly, I am bringing to us an awareness program that I titled, Nigeria is a Problem of Africa, while Britain is a problem of the whole world, a global problem. If we can take care of Nigeria, the situation in Nigeria, and that problem called Nigeria, then Africa will be good again. Because most of our people, or most of the world, they normally refer to Nigeria as the giant of Africa. There are more Nigerians in different countries of the world than every other African countries combined. Any country that have citizens, their citizens in the USA, Nigeria doubles that number. There are less than 100,000 Cameroonians in the United States of America. There are almost 500,000 Nigerians in the USA. So because of that, when there is a problem or something a crime committed by a Nigerian, most of the West, they see every black person as a Nigerian. That has given Africa a bad image. The bad image that Africa have in the West is not African country citizens from Cameroon, from Ethiopia, from Ghana, from Congo. No, they are citizens of Nigeria that are causing problems all over the world. They are the criminals, they are the 419ers, they are everything, they are the thieves. Nigerians. Now, they have given Africa bad name. And come to the governance in Africa. Other African countries are picking up. Our people went to Morocco to watch soccer. When they got there, they saw development. They saw, some of them were shouting, is this Africa? Why is it that black people? It's not a matter of black people mainly. It's a Nigeria problem. Nigeria is a problem. There are some videos. I have 2 videos to play, and I don't know if my time will suffice me, but I need to play 2 of these videos. Very important. These videos, we analyze it. Not everything this guy said that I support, where he's trying to analyze very dark man's, video of how he was, talking about what's the development in Morocco and comparing it to Nigeria. Not everything the guy said that I support, but I support the fact that Nigeria is the problem of Africa. So let's go there. I'll bring this video, and then the other one that cited that Britain is a problem of the world. And I am happy today that that problem of the world called Britain, Donald J. Trump have been raised to take care of that problem. And this problem of Nigeria, the Biafrans and people of conscience have, exposed them. And then the world has seen Nigeria to be the problem of Africa. So let's go there, and then we might have to talk later.
I saw this video very dark man made about the black skin. Let's watch it briefly, please.
It's a very serious question, because when I came into this country, I started asking myself, is this really an African country? Then I realized that Africa, the only people that are really doing well in African countries are the African countries that don't have the black skin. And it's so crazy. If you look at Egypt, if you look at Algeria, now look at Morocco. Everything in Morocco is amazing. You almost think you're in Europe. And it's so crazy. Look at the roads, look at the sign of the road. If you see their policemen looking all clean and neat, you don't see road, no gallop, nothing. Everywhere is developing fast and looking good. Then you ask yourself, are you sure these people are Africans?
All right. Let me just come in real quick. But I think you guys must have seen the video. It's a viral video on social media. I watched it on Tinder's Ednot's page, and I saw comments on the page, and I was like, oh my goodness, Africans, we are, wow. Well, a funny set of people, right? But I feel like it's a question that really needs to be asked, and one that we need to also answer, and also make sure that we do not, at the end of the day, live with the wrong answers. The truth is that the black skin is not cursed. Historical evidence have proven it. The black skin is not cursed. What we have, in fact, bad governance is not racially motivated. Bad governance is an institutional problem. It has nothing to do with race. You can go to Eastern Europe and you see how they live there also. When you go to Latin America, they have problems also. It's not about the skin texture. Even Middle East, there are Middle Eastern countries that are doing poorly than so many African countries. So the skin color is not the problem. The problem has to do with bad systems, bad institutions, bad leaders. And if we begin to think towards the angle of the skin color, we are following the lazy man approach, which is we are absolving ourselves from our responsibility as a people, that we have failed in our duty to be accountable, to hold our government accountable. We have failed to elect good leaders or to protect our votes, as the case may be. We have failed to participate in the process of bringing good leadership to the country. So the lazy man approach is to think it's a skin color thing. No, it's not a skin color thing. We are not cursed. The African nations that are actually black governed nations are actually not there yet, but they are. You can see a glimpse of movement towards the positive side. Botswana is there. Rwanda is there. Rwanda fought the Rwanda genocide in 1994. They have no reason to be even in the mix of this conversation right now, following the tangent that we are in. But they are there. Botswana have one of the most stable democracies, right? And if you travel around,
I just want to stop him 1 minute and tell you about Rwanda. You know, whether you are a black skin or white skin, it doesn't matter. It is the approach you put. When you identify your problem, the problem or the root cause of a problem, you solve it. You identify corruption, you deal with it. That is why we believe that Biafra will be the best country in the whole world. Because we are going to uphold justice, equity, and fairness. We are going to uphold integrity. If somebody is a criminal, that person will we pay the full price according to the law. Rwanda, for example, if you go to Rwanda today, very dark man who has also been to Rwanda, maybe he's forgot. If you go to Rwanda, the system you are seeing in Morocco, you will see them also in Rwanda. You see them in some other Eastern African countries. Why? Because there are some laws they make sure they uphold, like traffic laws. Some of them are being upheld. In Rwanda, when they identify that the problem they may be having will be religious problem, religious, criminality, fake prophet and fake pastors. Do you know what Rwanda did? They shut down all the fake churches. All the criminal churches were shut down. Over 6,000. Go and check. Google it. Google it. In Rwanda, 6,000 churches were shut down. When they discovered that they were all mushroom churches, criminal pastors, false prophets, prophetic nonsense, they shut them down. People like Jeremiah Moto Fufuyi, people like Chris Okafor cannot survive in the system of Rwanda because they will shut them down. So immediately they did all those things, shut them down, and then policies of government were put in place. Everything began to work. Rwanda is the first African country to produce a telephone, mobile phone, their own, produced in Rwanda, because they practice the law, rule of law, law and order. Do you understand? We have not seen anything. Biafra will take a model that you will not believe. So that's why there you will understand that even the black people can make things happen, and the white people will come to Biafra land and they will wow. They will do what? They will be wow. So let me allow this brother to continue. When he mentioned Rwanda, I had to call him back to correct that. All right, go ahead.
1994. They have no reason to be even in the mix of this conversation right now, following the tangent that we are in. But they are there. Botswana have one of the most stable democracies, right? And if you travel around, even Kenya, despite everything you say, all this road infrastructure and everything you see, it's in Kenya. You go to Ethiopia, the same thing.
Yes.
Angola. But the major problem is what I want to discuss right now. And I'll use an analogy of a family. So imagine a family of, let's say, 12 children. The first son is a drunk, useless. He always go carry OS. He doesn't know he's financially irresponsible. The second son watches his trend and is following him in the same light. Same with the third son. And probably the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth children say, make we hustle for ourselves and find a pathway out of that system. Now, if you are to look at that family, will you call that a successful family? The truth of the matter is that the answer is no. Because the eye that you will look at that family is from the first son, that drunkard. The second son, that womanizer. The third son, that this, that, So the family does not have a good reputation. That is exactly what's at play with Africa. Nigeria has been described, has been called the giant of Africa. And that toga automatically affects the black nation in general. If you're in diaspora, you see every 10 black person, there's a probability that 5 of them are Nigerians. We are the most populated black nation. And with that comes a whole lot of responsibility that we have failed as a people to handle. And so therefore, the cost on Nigeria affects other black nations, even if they are doing well. So it is important that Nigeria must rise. If Nigeria don't rise, this toga is the black skin cost. We always follow even black. If Ghana have done what we cannot do. Ghana have successfully conducted a peaceful election. We still are not yet able to conduct a peaceful election. So Ghana has already shown progress democratically. Every other nation are leaving us. And I will challenge very dark man and say, my brother, please, when you get back your time, go through Western African countries. Go to Benin Republic and see how the police are. Go to Benin Republic and see how their roads are. Just drive through semi-border. Follow road, don't go through air. Follow road. Pass through and see how these people are organized.
Yes.
Other small African nations are already living Nigeria in the past. They have left us behind. They are charting a new course for themselves. They are less dependent. They have seen that this their big brother is a useless brother.
Useless.
He's a failed brother. He's a brother that is still dealing with different wives and children that are fighting themselves over mundane issues. He's a brother that is crying over spilled milk, that he did not qualify for AFCON finals. So he's crying up and down. He's a brother that has failed to tackle his problems as a useless man.
Useless.
The problem of Africa is actually Nigeria. That is the honest truth.
I love that. Repeat it again. The problem of Africa is actually Nigeria.
Built milk, that he did not qualify for AFCON finals. So he's crying up and down. He's a brother that has failed to tackle his problems as a useless man. The problem of Africa is actually Nigeria. He's a brother that has failed to tackle his problems as a useless man. The problem of Africa is actually Nigeria. That is the honest truth. And until we begin to say these things as it is, we will continue to live in self-denial and try to blame it on the black skin. No, the black skin is not cause. We are facing a systemic, institutionalized problem that we as a people have to come together and fight. And that's why for me, I always challenge activists. I say, an activist that is not actively participating in the politics of his country, you really don't understand what you're doing. And it's the same thing I say also to even the celebrities.
Now, at the point that God will make this young man, his mind is open, the point that God will make him to get to, it is the point that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu got to. The point that Mazi Simon Ekpa got to. Now, he's still talking about the Nigeria section of how to fix it because it is the problem. He has not come to the point of realizing that there is what we call a dangerous diversity that have made Nigeria to have that problem. All these people that their systems are working in Ghana, in Rwanda, in Botswana, they don't have diversity problem. Some of them have the same type of culture that is guiding them. Ghana have their culture, Ashanti, Kotoko culture, Akwaba culture. Rwanda have their own culture. Ethiopia have their own culture system. The diversity does not affect them. But Nigeria, you have Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, all of them. Fulani now came into the midst of them. And then you have Edo, Ijaw, all of them. This culture mixed together, the concussion is too much. It can never work. Okay? Now I leave it there. Let's come to the problem of this world, which happened to be Britain. I don't know whether we'll be able to take this this particular one. The video is long, but as much as we can, let's listen to this one. Very, very important. I want us to listen to
military.
To know that Britain is the world problem, and Donald J. Trump have come to the rescue. Listen to this. Even if I don't talk again, bless your soul with this one. This is the part of it that might interest you. Britain, the founder of Nigeria, must be stopped, and then Donald Trump is handling them, and I'm sure he will handle them very well. I'm sure he'll be able to end them, and as he's ending them, he will also bring an end to Nigeria so that Biafra and other nations will rise up and be on their own. Go ahead.
There was a time about 100 years ago when the United States military knew exactly who the real enemy was, and it wasn't Russia, and it wasn't China. It was Britain. In the 1920s, the U.S. military developed something called War Plan Red, a detailed contingent.
At the time when the United States knew what the problem was, it wasn't Russia, it wasn't China, it was Britain, the problem. Start it again and then let my people enjoy it.
There was a time about 100 years ago when the United States military knew exactly who the real enemy was, and it wasn't Russia, and it wasn't China. It was Britain. In the 1920s, the U.S. military developed something called War Plan Red, a detailed contingency plan for war with the British Empire, with Canada as Britain's proxy. And right now, Donald Trump is dusting off a modern version of that same plan. Now, if you're watching the mainstream media, they're telling you Trump is recklessly threatening our alliances with his demands about Greenland. And Britain's premier foreign policy outlet, Chatham House, is now saying this about the United States. European leaders will remain concerned about Europe's ability to defend itself with a more unpredictable and even hostile U.S. And Chatham House also reported that in December, Denmark's military intelligence service classified the United States as a security risk for the first time. But here's what they're not telling you. Trump isn't threatening our alliances. He's ending 80 years of British control over American foreign policy. And he's doing it by reviving the strategic clarity that our military once had when they created War Plan Red.
Trump is ending the 80 years control that Britain had over them. Donald Trump is ending it. Please, I love you to repeat that again. It is with me. Donald Trump is an instrument of heaven. Oh, I'm telling you.
Intelligence service classified the United States as a security risk for the first time. But here's what they're not telling you. Trump isn't threatening our alliances. He's ending 80 years of British control over American foreign policy. And he's doing it by reviving the strategic clarity that our military once had when they created War Plan Red. I'm Susan Kokinda, and for 50 years I've tracked the British Empire's tactics and institutions. And I can tell you what you're watching right now is endgame. So if this is your kind of fight, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button to stay in touch and so we can spread our outreach. So today I'm going to show you 3 things. Why NATO leaders are now discussing protecting Greenland from the United States. I'm going to talk about the forgotten War Plan Red, when America's military actually planned for war against Britain. And third, how Trump is taking on the monopolies at home, that these are the same British financial interests that shape the post-war world, and they also run the cartels strangling your housing and your health care. Now, if you're watching the mainstream media, they're telling you Trump wants Greenland for its minerals or its military bases, or it's about Russia and China. Well, there are elements to some of that,
The same lies.
but there's
they tell you
much,
about,
much more.
Nigeria.
Look at what the foreign policy establishment is actually panicking about. The Atlantic Council, NATO's outpost here in the United States, just published a piece titled, "Trump's Quest for Greenland Could Be NATO's Darkest Hour." And Bloomberg reported that the United Kingdom and Germany are now discussing deploying NATO forces to Greenland to protect it from the United States. Let that sink in. NATO allies are discussing how to protect a NATO member from the United States, the supposed leader of NATO. Here's what Chatham House is really worried about. The cornerstone of NATO policy, Article 5, which triggers U.S. military support for NATO members. Here's what they say. The U.S., NATO's most powerful country by far, threatening to attack a NATO member state further damages Article 5's credibility. You bet it does. But it gets even more interesting. They continue, and they say, traditional alliance systems are reshaping daily, and European states might find they need support from other South American or other global South states in the future. And then the folks at Chatham House are very worried about the reports of potential U.S. cooperation deal on Arctic energy projects, and they got even more nervous in November with the 28-point peace plan, which includes joint Russian-U.S. plans for rare earth mineral extraction in the Arctic. Did you catch that? Europe may have to realign with the global South while the U.S. is working on Arctic economic deals with Russia. This is the British establishment admitting that Trump has broken their carefully crafted post-World War II Atlantic system. And here's the kicker about Greenland itself. The idea that Greenland belongs to Denmark is purely an artifact of imperial policy. Greenland didn't even get self-government until 2009, and it still has no power over its own foreign policy, currency, or defense. Denmark controls all of that. And according to the Danish media, those tensions recently broke out between Greenlandic and Danish parliamentarians, with one Greenlander accusing Denmark of neo-colonial methods. And opposition leaders in Greenland are now saying they want to negotiate directly with the United States, not through Copenhagen. So when Trump talks about Greenland, he's really talking about dismantling one of the last vestiges of European colonial control in the Western Hemisphere. And NATO, the military arm of that old imperial system, knows that if Greenland goes, the whole structure starts to crumble. Now, if you're finding this history eye-opening, if you're realizing there's a whole framework for understanding the British Empire's operations that you never heard before, you should go to the Promethean Action website and subscribe to our free newsletter. But let's dig deeper into why Greenland matters strategically. Everyone keeps saying it's about Russia and China. And yes, there are Russian and Chinese elements to this. But what if they aren't your main enemy? What if the real concern is Britain and Canada? Now pull out a map and look at the world from the North Pole down. Greenland sits right between Britain and North America. And of course, the northern part of North America is Canada. What's the significance of that? Think about this geography when we look at War Plan Red, because War Plan Red was a contingency plan for war with Britain, and Canada was the key proxy. This plan was approved and updated under the tenure of Navy Secretary Charles Francis Adams III. Now, names do matter in history. Charles Francis Adams III was not just a bureaucrat. He was the great-grandson of President John Quincy Adams, and he was the grandson of Charles Francis Adams Sr. Why is that significant? Because Charles Francis Adams Sr. was Abraham Lincoln's minister to Britain during the Civil War. He was the man on the ground in London, and he was the key figure who prevented the empire from diplomatically recognizing the Confederacy. This family understood the game. The grandfather spent the 1860s preventing the British from destroying the Union diplomatically. The grandson spent the 1920s preparing contingencies for a British attack on the U.S. They understood that the Republic and the Empire are incompatible forms of government. And for the last 80 years, we've forgotten that lesson. But Donald Trump is simply dusting off a modern version of War Plan Red, a war for political and economic sovereignty from empires and monarchies.
Donald Trump.
Now, if you're finding this history eye-opening, if you're realizing there's a whole framework for understanding the British Empire's operations that you never heard before, you should go to the Promethean Action website and subscribe to our free newsletter. Because when you look at the fight from the standpoint of Republic versus Empire, everything President Trump is doing makes perfect sense. So use the link to subscribe. Because while President Trump dismantles the empire's rules-based order, he hasn't forgotten the domestic one.
Dismantle.
The same British financial interests that shaped the post-war strategic landscape.
Wait, I'm going to allow you to finish. Let me just say one or two things because my time is almost up. Donald Trump need to dismantle this British control and everything they're doing. Do you know that Britain deliberately is allowing Islamic fanaticism, Islamic terrorism into the UK and into parts of Europe? All this influx of Europe, of terrorists into Europe, it is Britain that started it. It is Britain doing it. Are you not surprised that with all this terrorism, fears in the UK, the United Kingdom government are not doing anything about it? Rather, they are looking for how to censor people on social media. Their prime minister, normally when the prime minister is being pressured in UK, when they come under serious scrutiny in UK, they will resign. Ask yourself, why is Keir Starmer not resigning? Because he is the last instrument they want to use to bring Islamic control into Europe, into the UK, to bring Sharia law into UK. Go and check the past UK prime minister. Before this Starmer came in, some of the UK prime ministers, some of them don't even stay up to 2 months, 3 months, they will resign. This one have faced high control and high criticism, and most of the criticism are correct, and it's not resigning because Prince Charles is happy with what he's doing. They want to allow Islamic people to control everywhere. The same way thing they are doing in Nigeria. It is Britain that is in control of what is going on in Nigeria. Britain is not happy that Donald Trump is trying to take care of terrorists in Nigeria. So the problem of Africa is Nigeria. The problem of the whole world is Britain. And thank God Donald Trump is taking care of the world problem. While we, by the grace of Chukwu Kabiama, will take care of the problem of Africa, which is Nigeria. And God will also use Donald Trump to support us in taking care of it. If we do not take care of it, Nigeria, all of you. Nigeria will happen to all of you. There is no intention in repairing Nigeria. There is one man in France called Gilbert Gachori or something like that. Tinubu, he's the one that Tinubu is using to steal money in Nigeria. Abacha used him. Tinubu is not using him. One Lebanese man, Gilbert, forgot his name. I will bring that video to you people. Now, do you know what Tinubu is doing? Tinubu is giving the man the highest honor in Nigeria. A foreigner, a white person. He's the one that Tinubu get the highest contract in Nigeria, which is that road they are constructing, the coastal highway. Do you understand? The highest form of corruption is going on in Nigeria. Now they want to tax you, Nigerians. Because people try to resist it, they are suspending it, but they will still push for it. Britain is not saying anything because Britain supports it. They want Islamic fanatics to take over everywhere. As they are taking over, Britain prince, the monarch, they don't care whether Islam take over everywhere in UK. They don't care. They will even wish that they will destroy everywhere in UK, and UK will become Islamic. Sharia law will take over everywhere. Do you know how many? Almost all the states in UK now, almost all the states are being controlled by Islamic mayors. From London to Boston, from Boston to Luton, from Luton to Birmingham, from Birmingham, everywhere Islamic. Thank God for Donald Trump. Please enjoy this, and I am going to leave it to play to the end, and then later I will end it. But tonight we'll be back, hopefully, to analyze more. They will. See you guys later.
In London, and he was the key figure who prevented the empire from diplomatically recognizing the Confederacy. This family understood the game. The grandfather spent the 1860s preventing the British from destroying the Union diplomatically. The grandson spent the 1920s preparing contingencies for a British attack on the US. They understood that the Republic and the Empire are incompatible forms of government. And for the last 80 years, we've forgotten that lesson. But Donald Trump is simply dusting off a modern version of War Plan Red, a war for political and economic sovereignty from empires and monarchies. Now, if you're finding this history eye-opening, if you're realizing there's a whole framework for understanding the British Empire's operations that you never heard before, you should go to the Promethean Action website and subscribe to our free newsletter. Because when you look at the fight from the standpoint of Republic versus Empire, everything President Trump is doing makes perfect sense. So use the link to subscribe. Because while President Trump dismantles the empire's rules-based order, he hasn't forgotten the domestic one. The same British financial interests that shaped the post-war strategic landscape run the monopolies right here in our own backyard. The empire doesn't just operate through monarchies and NATO. It operates through monopolistic cartels right here at home, protecting the financial interests that have strip mined the American middle class. And this week, Donald Trump targeted the two biggest burdens crushing the American people and especially young families: housing and health care. Look at Trump's Truth Social post. He announced he is immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. For the last decade, these giant institutional investors, the Blackstones, the Vanguards, the State Streets, they've been gobbling up single-family housing stock. They swoop in, outbid young couples and other Americans, and turn what should be a family's primary asset into a permanent rental stream for a hedge fund. This was fulfilling the WEF's playbook of turning us into a nation of renters, owning nothing, and supposedly being happy. But by forcing these institutions to divest, the administration wants to flood the market with supply and bring prices back down to reality. And the markets aren't too happy with Trump's announcement. Barron's reported that real estate funds slipped after Trump's announcement this week. But Trump didn't stop there. Federal Housing Finance Director Bill Pulte called this investor ban just the first punch. He said the second punch was the direction to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to purchase up to $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities to begin to drive down mortgage rates. The effect of both of these actions was to immediately begin to bring some more mortgage rates down below 6%. Of course, the other huge burden is the cost of health care. We discussed that in the Wednesday briefing when Trump challenged Republicans in Congress to join him in the simple revolutionary concept of no money to the insurance companies, give it directly to the American people. But actually, the biggest cartel of all isn't housing, and it isn't even health care. It's the one Eisenhower warned us about, the military-industrial complex. And in a series of blistering posts, President Trump demanded that major defense contractors end their stock buybacks and cap their salaries. Think about this. These companies took taxpayer money meant for defense and used it to pump up their own stock prices instead of building ships or fixing planes. He's demanding that they stop being financial institutions and start being industrial ones. And the president has said that this economic message is the one he's going to deliver at Davos in a week and a half. Break the financial parasites so the real economy and real families can grow. So let's connect the dots. Trump's moves on Greenland aren't about territorial expansion. They're about ending NATO as an instrument of imperial control and securing the Western Hemisphere against countries which still operate under monarchies, like Britain, Denmark, and Canada. The War Plan Red framework shows us that the American military leadership once understood who the real enemy was, and Trump is reviving that clarity. And domestically, from Wall Street's housing grab to the Pentagon's stock buybacks, Trump is dismantling the cartels that have turned American citizens into serfs in their own country. But if you understand the game, and the real game goes back centuries, you can see exactly what Trump is doing and why it terrifies them. And when you understand the game, you can fight it effectively. That's what we do at Promethean Action. So head on over to our website and join the fight. Paying memberships and contributions give us the resources to do more and reach out even further. Because we have to build this fight now in 2026. There's no better way to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our independence than by finishing off the British Empire once and for all. So this has been your Monday Brief. Thanks for watching.
Please take a moment
ezi
and
onye nwe anyị na
subscribe to our
Chineke nna nke pụrụ m ihe niile Chukwu okike abịa ma bụ onye anyị na-efe na-agọzi aha nsọ ya onye ọbụla anyị ya na-achị onye mmụọ na mmadụ na-erubere isi onye ọbụla anyị ya bụ ọka aka ụbọchị ene ka anyị na-etugha eze ebube dị ngọzi mmalite na ọgwụgwụ ndị gboo wee tụọ oge ebighị ebi onye nwe m ụmụ gị wee gbakọọ n'ụwa niile iwe nara ozi ọma nke gị onwe gị n'ezi ha site n'ọnụ mmadụ dị ndụ na nke ebere dị ngọzi anyị wee na-asị na onweghị ihe ọbụla nke anyị onwe anyị bụ n'ihi na ọ bụ anakpa ahụ sọsọ ka mmadụ dị ndụ bụ ofu ụbọchị anyị ga-anwụ maka na olu okwu nsọ gị na-adịrị ma ruo mgbe ebighị ebi n'ihi na okwu gị niile ga-abịarịrị na mmezu ọ bịa mere Biafra ga-eji wee bịa na mgbe nke anyị wee na-akpọkụ gị wee na-arịọ gị na-asị lekwa ude nke anyị na-asụ n'akwa nke anyị na-ebe ka o metụta gị n'obi onye nwe m na Chineke nna nke igwe biko dịka isi wee napụta ụmụ gị n'ọbụ n'Ijipt gotu wee wezuga ụmụ gị bụ ndị Biafra mgbe ekwensu bụ zuu nke mmadụ dị ndụ kere anyị wee na-aja gị mma na-asị gị n'ime ọnọdụ anyị na anyị ga-ekele ha nsọ gị wee nye gị nsọpụrụ ụtọ na-eji ama mgbe niile n'ihi na anyị enweghị chi ọzọ ebezuga gị anyị nwe anyị anaghị efe arụsị ọbịa mere iji wee na-agọzi nsọmụkwụ anyị niile ọbịa mere IPOB ji wee gbaa mgbọrọgwụ n'ụwa niile anyị anaghị atụ egwu mmadụ dị ndụ anyị wee na-eto gị eze ebube dị ngọzi sị gị biko gbatara anyị ọsọ enyemaka ọ bụ naanị gị bụ onye anyị refe nwanyị akpụ isi ala nye ka i wee napụta ndị gị n'ọbụ nke ekwensu anyị wee na-enye gị ofe na nsọpụrụ na ija ma na-asị lekwa ka ndị iro anyị niile ka kasisi wee baa ha ọnụ ha wee daa hapụghị ikunye ọzọ obodo ekwensu bụ zu ala nwekwa n'ihi eze ebube dị ngọzi anya ọnwa anyị bụ ụmụ gị wee na-akpọkọ ha nsọ gị na-asị na emeghị chi ọzọ egwezuga gị anyị wee na-aja gị mma wee na-eto gị na-asị onye kere ihe niile kere eke mana onye kere na n'otuto niile na nsọpụrụ niile na ịja mma niile site n'ebighị ebi mara onye bụ ka a na-arịọ gị ise.
Have a nice day, guys. See you in the evening. Day one.